Hi, it's Rick Miller, your Tiny Habits and Balance Over Speed coach, and I'm here to guide you through John Maxwell's wonderful book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. We're going to start with the law of the lid, and we're going to discover why your leadership ability will determine your level of effectiveness. Let's get going. Let's talk about the difference between two people you've heard of and another one you may not have heard of, but they're intertwined. Dick and Maurice McDonald were two young Midwesterners who, in the late 30s during the Depression, moved out to Hollywood in search of something they could do and make their fortune. They tried the movie business, but that didn't work, so they opened up a restaurant in Pasadena. And they kept working on it, and they actually came up with the car hop concept that a lot of people knew of. After about 4 years, they basically moved to San Bernardino and came up with the concept that we now know as McDonald's. They worked at it, they were entrepreneurial, efficient, and they got to where they were actually in the 40s making $200,000 in sales and splitting $50,000. That is an incredible sum in the 40s when an average house cost $3,000. So they kept going, and along the way, there was a milkshake salesman in Illinois that kept selling milkshake machines to this operation out in California. His name was Ray Kroc. He decided to go out and check out this customer that kept going through milkshake machines. And he went out there, saw what they had, and he saw a vision. The McDonald brothers basically said, "This works, but you know, we've tried franchising, we don't think it'll work." Ray Kroc on the other side said, "I can see one of these in every town in America." And guess what happened? Stay tuned. Let's contrast the difference when it comes to leadership between the McDonald brothers and Ray Kroc. McDonald brothers were incredible entrepreneurs. They came up with a great concept. They then developed a system that we marvel at still today, and they figured out how to do it very profitably. Ray Kroc didn't come up with the concept of McDonald's, but he did have one thing. When he saw it, he had vision. And he knew that in order to create his vision, he was going to have to be very good at recruiting and leading people. And finally, rather than being just operationally good, he knew he was going to have to be very good at marketing. So you could say that the McDonald brothers were operationally focused, whereas Ray Kroc was scale focused. How did that work out? Well, in 1955, after they'd grown to all of 10 stores, the McDonald brothers said that's enough. So they sold out to their partner Ray Kroc for 2.7 million. A lot of money. Let's look at today. How did that work out? Ray Kroc retired, he's no longer with us, but today there are 40,000 McDonald's worldwide, and their market value isn't 2.7 million, it's $193 billion. Let's talk about the key point of this chapter, the law of the lid. And that is, to be effective, it takes both success and dedication, which both the McDonald brothers and Ray Kroc had, but it's also going to take leadership ability to grow and scale. If you look at this chart, this really reflects the McDonald brothers. They had success, dedication, they worked hard, they sacrificed, they were smart, and they were efficient. And so they were had this level of effectiveness. Let's contrast that, though, with what happens when you grow your leadership ability from where they were to where Ray Kroc got to. When you realize that Ray Kroc focused on his leadership ability because he knew, and he was also success dedicated, he worked a lot of hours, sacrificed a lot. But when you grow your leadership ability, look what happened to his area of effectiveness. In essence, by going from a 1 to a 5, which is where they were with the McDonald brothers, he grew this thing 600% in his effectiveness. And if you look at the results, you can see that dedication with leadership makes all the difference. Key takeaway from the law of the lid. One of the things that you can say is that you can always hire for effectiveness. Both the McDonald brothers and Ray Kroc hired for effectiveness to grow their business. But In order to really grow your level of effectiveness, it's going to be determined by your level of leadership, because your level of leadership will determine who you attract. And that's the key. Now that we know that leadership is what we're going to focus on as a growth mechanism, let's clear up some myths about leadership that usually most people have. First one's the management myth. Clearly, the McDonald brothers understood management. They knew how to put in systems, they knew how to design and to be very efficient in what they were doing. However, management really focuses on that efficiency. Leadership, on the other hand, focuses on behavioral change, and that is how you inspire other people to follow you. Second one is the entrepreneurial myth. We think that just because someone has vision that they can clearly see how to minimize risk, which is what entrepreneurs do, that they're going to be great leaders. But when you think about a lot of companies, what you're going to find is just because you have a vision doesn't mean that you know how to inspire and lead other people. So when you think about Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, Wozniak had the ideas, but he needed jobs for the leadership. You know, Bill Gates was a great programmer, but he needed Steve Ballmer to help grow Microsoft into the world class power it is. I think you can go through a lot of companies, and what you're going to find is being an entrepreneur doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a great leader. The knowledge myth. Just go to a university. You know some people that are incredibly bright and they can see things and they can do research, but they can't lead people. How about the pioneer myth? This is a great one. You think that the first to the market and the first people out there are going to always succeed in leadership. Not necessarily. A great story is Edmund Hillary, who was the first person to climb Mount Everest. And guess what? He wasn't even the leader of the team. Nobody's ever heard of John Hunt, but he actually led that expedition to climb Mount Everest. And the last one is a position myth. And I think we all fall into this trap where, okay, if I have the title, I can be a leader. Nope. You and I know that when you look around, if you think about it, and we're going to do an exercise at the end of this chapter, think about who you follow. And oftentimes, and who you listen to, even more importantly. A lot of those people don't have a title, and we all know people who have the title that you would follow nowhere. So let's keep going on this, but remember, leadership is all about influence. Okay, let's have some fun. This is going to be the starting point for your course. I want you to get some graph paper or just get some paper and graft it out, with 10 squares in each direction. What I want you to do is rate yourself. When it comes to success, where do you rate on a scale of 1 to 10? And when it comes to leadership ability starting this course, where would you rate yourself? Intersect those lines, and that's going to be the starting point for your area of effectiveness. Let's keep going. Let's wrap up this first law of the lid with another exercise. What I want you to do is look around at your circle of influence, your family, your friends, some people you work with, and I want you to ask them to rate you on your leadership skills in these four areas: your people skills, your strategy and planning skills, your vision ability, and your ability to bring in results. And again, on a scale of 1 to 10. After you get those results, I want you to average them and then compare them to the leadership ability that you did in your own self reflection. That ought to be an interesting comparison. Some of you are going to feel great about it. Some of you are going to feel like, okay, now I know why I'm going to continue in this course, because the rest of this will be focused on helping you grow that leadership ability. Always remember, it's always too early to quit, and it's never too late to start growing. Let's go on to the next chapter, the law of influence.